Okay, guys, can we just talk about Peggy O'Keefe for a second? I waited a day before I wanted to I need to formulate my thoughts, right? Because I have some feelings. I have some things to say about Mrs. O'Keefe, but, she is a woman, a mother who has lost two children. In some ways three, because her daughter was diagnosed and then died within 5 months of a brain cancer. That in and of itself is so tragic, and the pain I would never want to know, and she's known it. Then her son-in-law dies shortly after that, and so her grandkids are left without their parents, and her son John takes over, and now he's dead. So she has seen a lot of tragedy in her life, okay? All of that said, though, it doesn't mean that the truth changes. The truth is always the same no matter what. And there are some truths we can glean from Peggy O'Keefe's testimony and from the texts that were read today in court. So when Peggy testified, first of all, I want to say it was really hard to see because she was still clearly grief-stricken, as you'd expect. But there were a couple of things she said that jumped out at me and made me sort of cement my idea of what is going on, what the family dynamics were like before John died. One of the things that she talks about is when she went into the hospital, she saw Karen Reed there, and she didn't run up to Karen to see how she was doing or to ask more questions about, what was going on. She didn't do any of those things. No, she asked a nurse and sounded rather irritated even on the stand as to why Karen Reed was there. Now, Karen Reed is at the hospital for a psych hold, and the nurse tells her that, which is totally wrong. You're not allowed to tell people why someone is in the hospital for that very reason, specifically for some psychiatric things, but other things. People's health are their own business, right? And so that's a violation of HIPAA if, in fact, this nurse told her that. I don't know if she did or not. And we've got bigger problems, let's face it. But regardless, she's pissed that Karen is there. Karen is the girlfriend, the sometimes living girlfriend of your son, who is in the hospital, suspected to be dead or almost dead. She takes care of your grandchildren. Your daughter's kids, she takes care of them. And you're pissed that she's at the hospital. You're irritated by it. That says a lot and can't be overlooked. Okay? That tells me that before John died, she had a problem with Karen. Was it obvious before this? I don't know, but it was there, because that is not a reaction by someone who cares about their daughter's, who cares about their son's girlfriend, right? So why did she not like Karen? I don't know. I have my suspicions, but I really don't know. And so that to me was very telling, particularly because on the way there, Carrie Roberts discussed a conversation she overheard in which Peg was saying to Karen what happened, and Karen said, we went to a party and I dropped him off, and Peg screams at her, what do you mean you dropped him off? She was upset about it. And Mr. O'Keefe, John's father, sort of was like, all right, Peg, that's enough. Let's back off a little. So at least he likely had a good relationship with Karen, or at the very least was being objective in that moment to not start bashing on this woman. But we find out more today in the text messages about the dynamics of that relationship, because we see Karen and John texting back and forth. Anybody who's been in an avoidant attachment style relationship, this is the classic. You could use this for a textbook to show people how this is how an avoidant works in a certain situation. This is how the anxiety attached person, this is how they react in a certain situation. And if you didn't know, clearly John is the avoidant attached and Karen is the anxiety attached. John is avoiding shit. He's throwing out these bombs into the text messages. which is what it sounds like he's done in the past, where he just throws these things out to trigger Karen, and then Karen predictably gets triggered and starts calling and calling and calling. Anybody who calls and calls and calls like that, that's somebody who's anxiously attached to someone. She probably realizes this at this point, but a lot of people don't realize it and never realize it. So the fact that she saw it and sees it, she'll probably be free of that now. But it's a real dynamic. It can become very toxic. And, it doesn't mean anybody killed anybody, though. But I do think it was interesting to see that window into their relationship, right? I think they did love each other. I think they just had these malfunctioning attachment styles, which is why they were drawn to each other, which is why they had a relationship. It doesn't make anybody a bad person. We all have these types of fuck ups in our software system, right? The idea is to learn from them, regardless of any of that, okay? Regardless of that dynamic with Karen and John, which we could see quite clearly. Because of that, we're able to really get into Karen's head the night of the tragedy, because it's just more of the same, where he's just kind of blowing her concerns off, not really validating how she feels, not recognizing what she thinks is going on or how she feels about the situation. He's just avoiding all of that. And so she really thought he just went into the party and was like, fuck it, whatever, I'm here. You can watch the kids, take care of the kids. He's done it before. He did it in Aruba, right? So we can see these kind of dynamics. Again, not making any person, Karen or John, a bad guy, just recognizing what's happening, okay? But even more telling in those text messages is that John refers to his own mother by her first name. He calls her Peg. He calls her Peg. And that is not a little thing to be overlooked, in my opinion. Do you call your parents by their first name? Do you call your mom by her first name? Do you call your father by his first name? Why do children or adults do this? I know, I had a friend when I was younger who called her mother by her first name. I didn't understand it then, but now that I'm older, I understand it. Her mother was a narcissist. She wasn't really a mother per se. And so my friend called her by her first name because she wasn't a mother. Now, I'm not saying that's exactly why John was doing this, but I am saying to call your mother by her first name is a defiant act. It is telling you something. And so that tells me perhaps John and his mother did not have the most harmonious of relationships. And in fact, maybe John had some resentments or opinions about his mother that weren't really the greatest. Okay? We know that he didn't feel that way about his father, though. He calls his father Papa in the text, which is absolutely adorable, and I love this name for Mr. O'Keefe. Mr. O'Keefe needs, like, all the hugs. He needs all the hugs. This man is in such a hell, I believe, in my mind when I think of Mr. O'Keefe, because he has his wife who is set on the fact that Karen did this. And Peg O'Keefe is not someone to be messed with. That comes off really clearly. She's the type of woman, when you meet her, don't fuck with this lady, right? Like, I wouldn't fuck with her, regardless of anything else. She's a strong woman. She's opinionated, she's strong, and she's going to tell you exactly how she feels, and she can stand on her own 2 feet. So she is not somebody that can be messed with. And Mr. O'Keefe, maybe, I don't know, he seems like, just from what I'm watching, he just kind of is paralyzed by it. He's paralyzed by all of this. Because I think he knows the truth. He had a good relationship with Karen before all of this started. In fact, there was a card he sent to Karen. They went to church together. They had a relationship. And John respected his father as a father because he gave him the name Papa. They called him Papa, okay? Papa was even at their house, spending some time there, just kicking it, probably trying to get away from Peggy, I'm imagining. I don't know, okay? I don't know. I'm just saying these are the types of dynamics that are coming up when we see the behind-the-scenes text messages. And so you've got a mother, Peg, being referred to by her first name, by her own son. That says a lot right there to me. Could there be other reasons? Of course there are. I don't know everything. I'm just telling you based on dynamics. It's something that I can see very clearly, and it makes me have certain opinions. So it's a shame. But the more the Commonwealth tries to bring forth these types of things and paint Karen Read as some crazy bad person who has a motive to do something horrific. I mean, let's just be honest. They're not saying that Karen accidentally backed up into John and left him there and just didn't realize it. No, they're saying that she intentionally put her car into reverse and floored it and fucking punted him across the lawn and left him there. That is vicious as fuck. Okay? That is a vicious accusation. And if you watch Karen Read throughout this trial or before, it's just not her. Like, that's not her personality. She may be opinionated. She may be a strong woman, all these things. She could even be unhinged at times by calling him 50 times in a row. I've done it. I'm going to be honest. I don't do it anymore, but when I was younger, I did it, okay? I would never have done what they are saying Karen did, and I don't believe she did it either. I think the Commonwealth is just really can't win for losing. Like, they are just, this case is a bloodbath of the Commonwealth. You know, they chose Hank Brennan, I believe, well, not only because nobody else would take the case, but because Hank Brennan was a defense attorney when they hired him. He's used to defending guilty parties. Now, some people are innocent. I get it. I'm just saying, though, like, when you're a defense attorney, oftentimes you don't know if your client's innocent or not, or they may have said something to allude that they're guilty. They'll take a plea, but you sort of don't know, right? The Commonwealth is guilty as fuck, and that's why they hired Hank Brennan, because he knows how to defend guilty people, guilty parties. And often when I'm watching this trial, it's almost like we're in this universe where it's flipped, where Hank Brennan is defending a guilty party, the Commonwealth, and Alan Jackson and Karen Read and their team are trying to prosecute the Commonwealth. Now, they're doing it less in this trial. They're not really doing it that way in this trial. The first trial, they openly had that sort of plan. This trial, they're much slicker. They're just a lot more tuned up, because they're not saying that's what they're doing. They're not going after it in that way. They're proving it. They're walking you through the steps so you can see it step by step. They are lifting the veil on this corruption. And I don't see how any juror or any person watching this thinks that the Commonwealth has a chance in hell of proving that Karen Read was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. We know she didn't do it to begin with, but they really just look like fools. They look like fools. And so for that reason, I think, it's a good thing. It's exposing all this corruption. And it's fascinating to watch these people who have, because not everybody who is a defense witness or who believes Karen Read is guilty is part of some cover-up. That's the part that I think people get hung up on when they're like, oh yeah, there's like 80 people in this conspiracy, and now Carrie Roberts is in it, and now Nuttall is in it. No, neither one of them are in on it. They're saying and doing what they're saying and doing based on their own flawed egos. They are being led by their egos to do and say these things. They're not seeing the truth because their shadow self has taken over. Nuttall, for example, okay, Nuttall, who looks like, Nuttall really shaped himself up. Like, if you look at his testimony from the first time to this time, his hair was all scruffy. He was just kind of like whatever. But this time, he's got the slick back, nice looking hair, the crisp suit. He's got his chin up. He reminds us how he infamously said furrows, however you want to say it, furrows. He infamously said that. He told us that. This guy is full of himself. And he has been made, the star witness, apparently, the first one they called up, Hank Brennan, to really just bury Karen. He thinks he's doing something good here. But he is completely blind to the fact he's being led. He is being led down this path. And I don't even think it's by Hank Brennan. It's just by his own fucking ego. He wants to be like an A-list celeb, not like a B-lister like he was last time. And he's decided to step up to the plate and say some other things that he remembers, quote, hearing that he forgot before. He even said that his memory today is better than it was the day of the events. That shows you how blinded he is by his own fucking ego. Okay? And then we have Carrie Roberts, who, Carrie Roberts, again, completely blinded by her own ego. They didn't bring it up, but we know Carrie Roberts went to the prom with John O'Keefe. She went to the prom with him. She knew his sister, okay? She knew his sister. So it wasn't, when they say like she didn't really know them, she wasn't really friends with the family. She knew the family. They went to high school together in junior high. She was the junior high prom date. The O'Keefes remember Carrie Roberts, okay? And Carrie Roberts clearly loved John. She loved him. Okay, I'm not saying in a romantic way, but she loved him. Before him, she loved his sister. I mean, that's normal to feel that way, right? They helped each other out. But I think her ego, again, is leading her in a path because she wants to be on the, quote, right side. And she thinks the right side is with John and his family. And so we have someone like Jen McCabe with these low-level manipulation techniques is easily able to persuade Carrie Roberts. Meanwhile, she's talking shit about Carrie Roberts in the background. And even on the stand last time, she's like, oh, Carrie's a talker. She's just a talker. We see you, Jen McCabe. I have no doubts about, like, the type of person she is. We see you, Jen McCabe. Does Carrie Roberts see you? I don't fucking know. I don't know if it's possible at this point. I hope so. I hope she wakes up because a lot of people are talking about it. I mean, Howie Carr even did like a page in the Boston Herald calling out that, Carrie Roberts has been led. She has been duped. She has been fooled. It's a lot of people telling you, Carrie, you got to wake up. So hopefully you wake up. The truth is the truth no matter what. And sometimes it slaps you in the face, and sometimes it creeps in and just hangs out, and you refuse to see it. And I think that's what's happening in this case. So, regardless, Karen Read is innocent, and she's going to be found not guilty this time. The defense is crushing it. Crushing it.